The journey is conversations with ordinary people about stories of transformation and how we may have had setbacks in our life and how we persevered through those, how we've learned from those obstacles, and how they've maybe helped us on our path today. So Patrick Coleman, welcome to the journey.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So let me just real quickly, explain a little bit about what the journey is. The journey is just a show where we just ordinary individuals come onto the show talking about where they may have had in their life either setbacks or how did they, with those setbacks, how did they fall forward? How did they learn from those? Whatever adversity that they had in their life, how did they, what led to that? And then what did they learn from it? And most importantly, now what are they doing with that? And I know we got a chance to meet a couple months ago.
Yes, sir.
And I know you're pretty active here in the community now. But before we get into all that and hearing your story, why don't you tell us a little bit about what do you do for fun? When you have an opportunity to have fun, what do you do for fun?
This is going to surprise you.
Yeah.
I have fun training people.
Okay. All right. Okay.
That's my fun. That's my joy, man.
Okay. All right. Well, and that works out perfect, right?
Yeah. Because that's what I love to do.
And it's funny because when I do ask people that question, just to kind of get knowing a little bit more about who they are, I think that's some of the best ways. If you can figure out what you're passionate about and what you love to do, and you figure out how to monetize that, you're not going to work. We're just
work is not like that anymore. Yeah. It's fun.
Yeah,
because I'm doing something that I love to do. Yeah. And it's not like a lot of people got a job and they work a job and they really don't like it.
Right.
Like, I really don't like what I do, but I love what I do. Yeah. I love seeing people get it.
Yeah. And then seeing that, and you got to be in the same position as like myself or Dalton or anybody else that coaches or does any aspect of that. You see in them when they get it, they start shifting, they start changing, or seeing that they can do something that they didn't think they could do before.
Right.
And that's a cool thing to be part of.
It's like the light bulb comes on in their head and they go, "Bing! I got it." Yeah. Oh, that's a great feeling. That's priceless.
Yeah.
You can't pay me for that one. Man, to see them get it, to get an understanding of what's really going on.
And once they feel that, right, then they can't lose it.
Oh man, it's there. It's like riding a bike. It's there.
Yeah. They may not practice it and forget about it. They may forget it because they don't practice it.
Right.
But it'll come back up.
It's always there. Yeah. It's like an instinct. It's like a reaction. It's always there.
Yeah. Well, Patrick, if you could just maybe share a lit'll bit about where'd you come from? A little bit about your background, a little bit about your family. Why don't you start with that?
I'm originally from right here in Rockford. I was born here in Rockford. My family, of course, my grandfather was from down south, and my grandmother's from down south. My mother was raised here in Rockford, and I was raised here in Rockford. Okay, and this is where it's at. 815, baby.
Okay, all right. Okay. Now, do you have siblings?
I was the only child born to my mother.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and then she adopted a son. Okay, and I have a step sister.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
That I was raised with. Yeah.
Okay, and your brother who was adopted, right? What's the age difference between?
Oh, we were 15 years apart.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so I was 15 playing football in high school. As this little kid, I had to come home to. Yeah, and I loved it though. I loved it. There's a big gap. Yeah, big gap. But I turned pro in boxing at 19, so I was only around them for like really 4 or 5 years, and then I had to leave.
Okay, and so that, we're definitely get into that part of your story with the boxing, and so, but that's almost like being an uncle, right? I mean, there's a pretty big age difference there. So
but at 15, we're 15-year-old young men. Our minds are on girls and stuff like that. So, but I always had the little brother to come home to and play with. I loved him. I loved it. I didn't have a lot of time with him, because I had to leave. So
right.
Yeah.
So let's jump into that. How did you get interested in boxing? Because I know that was at an early age.
Yeah, I think I was around 5 years old when my stepdad introduced me into boxing. Okay. I used to watch fights all the time, have his friends over, and I was really interested in it. And in fact, when I was 5, 6 years old, I knew when fighters would fight, I knew who had the better jab. Who had the movement, who had the speed, who had defense. defense better. I knew all that at the age of like 5 or 6 years old.
Okay. How, like, when you think about that now, looking back on it, how at a young age were able to differentiate between this boxer having certain skill level versus another? Where do you think that came?
I don't know, man. That's hard. It's because I was so in love with it as a kid. Okay. Most kids would watch cartoons and stuff at that time, and I would love boxing. Okay. My dad would have videotapes, VCR or whatever, VHS. I put it back on there, watch different fights and mimic them, and I was doing that at a young age. Okay. So I always loved boxing.
Gotcha. Okay.
I don't know. I remember when my dad was teaching me how to do this stuff when I was about 5, but I've been in love with it ever since.
Okay. Now, did he box, or did he was? He
just boxed in the Army.
Oh, okay.
He boxed in the Army. He never took it any further. Okay. But he boxed in the Army, and well, I guess when he got with my mother, I was a little tiny kid. I had a small man complex too growing up. I was real small. Okay. And I think that he just wanted to teach me, toughen me up a little bit or whatever. And I just fell in love with it. Okay. I fell in love with it from there on.
Okay. But if I remember correctly, Mom had a different thought about that.
Yeah. Mom loved the fact that I was learning how to defend myself, but she didn't want me to get in the ring. Okay. And actually, my dad talked her into letting me go to the gym at the age of 5, but she wouldn't let me fight till I was 15. Okay. So actually, I had 10 years experience. Okay. Before I had my first fight.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
So when you went to the gym, so they just allowed you to practice and train and learn certain skills and those type of things, but didn't want you to get into. Now, did you spar at that time period?
Actually, I did.
Okay. All right. Hope
Mom know about that. She probably know about it now. But I did. I started training at 5, and for the whole 10 years with Bill Pepin. Okay. Jimmy Goodman Sr. and Nate Gould Sr. That's what the guys that trained with for all those years. Okay. Until my mother released me to fight, but I've been sparring all the time. Okay. So I already knew exactly what was going on in the ring. Man, had a good IQ already. Okay. So I didn't have my first fight till I was 15.
Okay. Right. So during that time period, obviously you're heavily involved with athletics. I mean, you're an athlete and you're doing athletic activity. Yeah. Did you play? You said you played football?
I played junior tackle football. Okay. I think that program is still going. I played for Booker Washington. Oh, yeah. I still played, and I played 1 year at Lincoln Middle School. Okay. And high school, I played at Rockford East. Oh, okay. 4 years.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Yeah. All so right. I was still doing other things in boxing.
Okay. So that was very much my experience too. Yeah. My sport with bodybuilding it's not a high school sport, so
you had to do it outside of school.
But I also wanted to be involved with football and school stuff too, because that's where the girls were, and that's and that's where your friends were and stuff. So, and then so what do you think, or what was the reason why 15? Why was that the magic number for your mom?
I don't know. I think my stepdad kept pushing her. Okay. And I think at 15 she started noticing that I was, I can handle myself. Okay. So I don't know why, but I'm glad she did. She released me at 15. Okay. And we fought immediately. Okay. Actually won every tournament you can at 15. Junior Olympics, state silver gloves. So I won all those tournaments, and that's why I didn't really stay amateur long, because I had so much experience.
Gotcha. Okay. So then you started at 15, and then you said at 19.
Yeah, 4 years later I turned pro.
Okay. And so those were the different titles you won as an amateur.
Yeah.
Okay.
And also when I was 16, 17, I won Golden Gloves. Okay. The Springfield Golden Gloves, Illinois Golden Gloves, and then I went to the Nationals and I lost in the semifinals. Okay. And then the next year is when I went to Chicago, and I wanted to turn pro. I had a child in high school, and they made me stay amateur one more year. He said I had to win the Chicago Golden Gloves in order to prove that I was ready to turn pro. But I think he did it just to get the Chicago people behind me. Okay. As far as knowing who I am, getting sponsorship and things like that. So I went one more year and went to the Golden Glove, won the Golden Gloves in Chicago, went to the Nationals again. This time I lost in the quarterfinals. Okay. And right after that, about a month later, I turned pro.
Okay, gotcha. So, and I know you you mentioned this before about the difference between the Springfield Golden Gloves and the Chicago Golden Gloves. So
I think the Illinois Golden Gloves, which is down in Springfield, Chicago has so much potential in boxing there. It's big, it's huge. So it was so big it had their own Golden Gloves. And then you had the Illinois Golden Gloves.
I see.
So I won Illinois Golden Gloves, but when I moved to Chicago, my manager, he said, I need you to win the Golden Gloves and we'll turn you pro. I said, sir, I'm already a Golden Glove champion. What are you talking about? He said, no, you got to win the Chicago Golden Gloves. So it's a bigger tournament.
Okay.
It lasts a lot longer. More people's involved. Yeah. And so I wiped through that one too.
Okay, nice. Okay, and so then a month later you turn pro.
Yeah, I turned pro. Yep.
Yeah, and so tell us a little bit about what that was like, and especially again now you're 19 years old.
Yeah.
You turn pro, and you're now living a dream that has been going on for 14 years.
Oh yeah,
but you're only 19.
I'm only 19.
Right.
And I left home. I remember my mother crying when I left. And she didn't want me to leave, but it was something I had to do. I knew I could do it. I went to turn pro, and it was totally different than what I thought because I didn't know all the stuff that came with it, all the requirements. And when I got a trainer, I ended up getting a personal trainer and a nutritionist and all that stuff. I couldn't eat this or that, but I wasn't really eating that kind of stuff anyway. But it was just different for me. But it was so like, okay, this is for real now.
Okay,
they're serious now. And then I was getting getting paid every week just to train. So that was kind of different for me too, being 18 before I turned pro, being 18 and getting money and just to train, and this is so different for me. Though I didn't really know how to handle money or none of that kind of stuff. Coming up.
Well, and because that was right at the time when you left home, right?
Yeah.
So mom and your stepdad or dad had been taking care of everything, and now all of a sudden you're on your own.
I'm on my own,
and so maybe I think some of our audience members may not really fully grasp, when you turn pro, what exactly does that mean? Because a lot of times I think they think what they see on TV and then what the purse is when they win. Yeah. But what?
Life changes when you turn pro. You talk about turning pro, and you have people that are managing you and advising you and over your career. You're not your own anymore.
Okay.
So I went from being being taken care of by my parents to having managers and agents look over me, but still was missing some stuff. They wasn't raising me to be a man. They were just kind of protecting my boxing career.
Sure.
As I was coming up.
Okay. So when you sign, I'm assuming there's like a contract you sign with them.
Yes, sir.
And then they are banking on that as you go into these fights, then you're going to get paid.
Yeah.
From the fights, and then they're going to get paid from that.
Of course, but my manager, he would pay me weekly. Okay. But I believe that he had to do something with the taxes because he was paying me weekly, and then I'll get purses, and I'll put my purses up. But he still was paying me, so I'm pretty sure he was getting something at the end of the year with taxes and stuff like that. But he pretty much let me do my thing. You know what I mean? He figured I had it,
sure,
but I didn't. I didn't know anything I was getting myself into.
Yeah. So let's first talk about some of those first fights at turning pro, and because it seemed like as you were going through your amateurs outside of a couple of the national tournaments, it seemed like there was a lot of success.
Oh yeah.
And turning pro, what was different about that? Those first pro fights.
It was so real, man. Actually, to tell you the truth, my first 4 or 5 fights were easy. Okay. They were first round knockouts. It's like they got some just to build my name up, get my name known in Chicago, and it was my fan base was growing big time. All the way up until I was 15-0 before I even lost the fight. Okay. But I say about my 9th, 10th fight, I started fighting tougher guys. Okay. And it started getting serious. I started understanding how to relax in there and learning the ring IQ and things like that. So I had my first loss at 15. I was 15-0. Okay. And I lost my first fight. Okay. And that was devastating. Okay. I actually called myself quitting after I lost that, and I came home for a short period of time. When I came home, I found myself getting into trouble because a lot of my friends that I graduated school with were into drugs and stuff when I got back home.
Okay.
And I ended up getting caught up in that as well for a brief period of time and found myself in trouble.
Okay. So let's talk about that fight. Going into that fight, I mean, what was different about that fight as you were preparing for that fight? If you remember back to that time period, what was the preparation like? What was different about that fight? And then,
I think that was the first fight that I kind of took the guy easily, took him for granted. He was 10-5.
Okay.
I was 15-0. Didn't ever think about the fact that the 5 guys he lost against were top guys.
Okay.
Didn't think about that. I always thought that I'm 15-0. I can't be beat. This is I'm the man. And so I don't think I took my training as serious as I should have.
Okay.
I still was doing some things that I wasn't supposed to do, like being intimate with women before the fight. You got to save your strength and stuff like that. And so I was young and dumb and didn't know what I was doing, So I didn't take it. I didn't take them serious as I thought. Like the other ones were easy, and I thought he would be easy as well.
Okay. And I think that, and you said this a couple times today, and I think there is a huge missing piece in our culture, is that part of the mentorship.
Yeah.
So we can have somebody in our life showing us how to do certain things and coaching us along and stuff like that. But if they don't speak into us about those other things outside of the gym or outside of the ring or whatever, then we get distracted.
Right. Nobody taught me how to save money. Nobody ever taught me how to, do anything like that. Nobody ever taught me how to be a man. I don't know if somebody can teach you how to be a man, but kind of guide you or along the way. When I was having certain issues or problems with things I didn't understand, I didn't have no one to go to and talk to. And I think it's very important to have a mentor. Yeah. But I didn't have a mentor at that time.
Well, and I know for me that even in my case, I had a lot of guys that were older. They would tell me stories about what they were doing. There was a lot of do as I say, but don't do as I do, right? But that still left the gap of what do I do when I find myself in similar situations. And part of it was how I translated was I didn't know how to ask for help. I knew how to ask for help when it came to doing a certain exercise or getting ready for a show or something, but I didn't know how to ask for help when it came to girls or when it came to should I do this job or do that job or those types of things. Knew how to ask for help if I should get into this show versus that one, but not necessarily about the other things, and didn't even know to ask. That was the other thing. I just didn't even know to ask.
I was so cocky at that age. I think it was like when I got my loss, I was like 20. I think it was like 20, 21. I was so cocky. I thought I was the best thing they ever put on gloves. I thought I was the best in the world. I believe that. I'm sure that as I think about it, it was a few trainers that wanted to sit down and talk to me about stuff, and I was like, man, I've done this. I was so cocky, and I think if somebody was trying to talk to me and talk some sense into me or trying to get me to understand more about life, I don't think I would have listened. I'm pretty sure they did, but I just didn't listen.
Sure, yeah.
Because at that age, and you're a pro at 19, 20, you think you're the best.
and everything has been showing, right, that I just have to put my time in, do some training, and then everything will be okay, right? And there's that false sense of that false reinforcement that everything's going to continue being okay. It's interesting when you talk about that idea about being open or being closed. We can, we may, be polite and listen to them, but we're not being open to them because it's just not sinking in.
It's going through one ear and out the other. Yeah. Especially if you have a wall up. I had a wall up because I was cocky. I was overconfident. I thought I was the man. I thought that all I had to do was fight and be with girls, and the world is mine. Yeah. I didn't listen to nobody that didn't reason or understand. No, I thought I knew it all. I was young.
Yeah. And I think that there is that element of losing this fight, and the other part of it must have quickly come to you that part of the reason why you lost the fight was you didn't prepare for it. Right. But if you're like me, I'm not telling anybody about that.
I wasn't right. I wasn't prepared right. I was messing around with marijuana and girls, and I just thought that was it.
Yeah.
Thought that was like, this is the life right here. I'm away from home. You know what I mean? I'm a professional boxer. I'm getting money.
Yep.
I thought it was it.
Yeah. But when you lost that fight, right?
Yeah.
And you said that was the first time when you started, the first time you considered quitting.
Yeah, I called myself quitting.
Yeah.
I came back home to Rockford. I was living in Chicago at the time. Came back home to Rockford, and a lot of my friends at the time, they weren't into doing anything. They get out of high school and they're at a place they don't know what to do in life. So they started at this time in the 80s and 90s, drugs and cocaine and stuff was really rock cocaine, all kind of stuff was really on the high. So the kids were trying to be pimps and players, and run the streets. And when I came back home, I fell right into the trap with my friends. You know what I mean? And we actually was selling drugs and got busted.
Okay.
Got busted. My managers they found out what happened. They let me sit a little while. They bonded me out, and I went right back to Chicago. I said, "This is not the life I want."
Okay.
I was scared.
Okay.
I went back, and I missed boxing. I went back to Chicago immediately. The lawyers, they did help me get out of the situation. I still was convicted. I still had to do something, crime. I do some time and pay some fines, but yeah.
But for the most part, they were giving you a second opportunity.
Yeah,
second chance.
And my manager's a trainer. My manager is so wise. He allowed me to make my mistakes.
Okay.
But he waited for me to call him and say, "Look, I'm sorry. Can I come back? Can I get it right?" And so he already invested money in me. I knew better than that. And I didn't know he would take me back like that. But I knew he wasn't going to leave me out here like that.
Right.
Being only had 15-1.
Right.
And he invested a lot of money in me. So I'm glad he brought me back. He brought me back to Chicago, and I got back on track again.
Okay, all right. so then, yeah, tell us about that part. How did that run go?
Oh man, when I got back, my manager decided that he wasn't gonna give me poop butts to fight anymore. That it was time to step up. I had to be a man and step up, and so I fought Soul Mambi, a 2-time world champion, just passed away a couple weeks ago. Great fighter, older guy. He taught me a lesson in that ring. I won, but he taught me a lesson. He taught me that you got to work hard, man, because he was smart and intelligent in there, and he did some things in there that that I wasn't aware of. You know what I mean? I wasn't prepared for it, but I did enough to win the fight, and I pretty much won a unanimous decision because I was young and he was pretty much old. But I learned a lot because afterwards he had a chance to talk to me.
Okay.
He was like, "Hey man, if you're gonna do this, man, be for real about it. You're gonna be a good one. This and that. So I thank Soul Mambi for that. Rest in peace."
Okay, so that was another individual who was similar to your manager, trying to reach out to you, and obviously you just got done being in the ring with him, so you're open. Because
I'm open.
There's a level, and maybe you can touch on this just for a sec. In combat sports, right? Yeah. And there's a level. Well, let me ask the question: is there a level of respect that happens in that scenario that may not happen in other sports?
I believe so, because we're in there trying to take each other's heads off. There's reported like 8 deaths a year in the boxing ring. So guys are really trying to take you out. And after the fight against him, and of course other champions that I have a chance to fight later in life, but after that fight, man, I had so much respect for him, and I think and then he was so wise to me. So when he talked to me, I was open.
Yep.
I was open to hear him, and he was telling me what was going to happen, and I heard him, but I just, no, I ain't gonna do that. He told me about drugs, groupies, people slipping Mickeys, people trying to take away, who you are. He told me all this stuff we talked for about an hour after the fight in the locker room, me and him. And I heard him, some things I heard, but I still wasn't mature enough or prepared to believe everything that he was telling me would come true to me, but it did.
Yeah. Well, it's amazing how our resistance to us taking stuff in, we get this foreshadowing, right? This forewarning that this is how the game really is.
Yeah.
And yes, I got you, but it won't happen to me.
That's exactly what I thought. I said, I hear you. I know that's probably happened to some before me, but it's not gonna happen to me.
Yeah.
Man, I'm Cat Coleman. Are you crazy? You know what I mean? That's how I was thinking.
Yeah. And
I was young still.
Yeah. And then if you're like I am, I'm gonna take one or two experiences in my past and say, oh, I learned that lesson. I won't go down there again. Right. And it's almost again that false confidence.
Right. No way I'll fall for drugs. I just got busted playing around with my friends in Rockford, and I just got out of that. It's never gonna happen to me. I'll never get into that, get trapped in that life. That's what I thought.
Yeah. So you fought that fight, you win that fight, and now your manager's putting you into tougher situations. And knowing then, I'm assuming that also part of that, knowing then that you're going to have to train harder because these are tougher guys.
Definitely.
And he knew that enough about you that if you thought you might have an easier fight, there may be a tendency to sit back on your heels.
Yes.
Right.
So I think that was strategic by him, because he knew I was getting a little bit beside myself.
Yeah.
And so he had to make the road tougher for me, which is good because it brought out the best in me. He knew that.
Yeah.
I tend to fight to my competition. If my competition is really not that good, then I'll lower myself, do just enough to win. You know, but then I was fighting somebody not as good, and I lower myself to that person. Then he said, okay, well, I'm gonna get him people that are up here to bring him up. And so I had like about 3 or 4 TV fights after that.
Okay.
And TV loved me because of how tough I was, and I was always ready to go at it. I was real mean in the ring, and it was good for TV. So they called him on a regular for me to fight.
Okay, all right. And so as you continued fighting, what were some things that older champion had mentioned? What were some things that started coming true?
Yeah, he told me. He said, "Look, it's going to be a lot of people." He was talking about groupies. They're going to be around. He said they're manipulative. They're going to act like they're your friends, but they're not. They all want something. And I'm so friendly. You know what I mean? I get along with everybody. And I end up getting caught up in that, because after a couple big fights, Hector Camacho was rest in peace, was a top fighter when I was coming up. He was a guy I looked up to as a boxer. He fought on the same card in Chicago. I'm sorry, and I was on the undercard. I was the co-main event. He was the main event, and we were in the gym training about a week before the fight. And I hear a whole bunch of ruckus. It's macho time. It's macho time. I'm like, what's going on? And this whole entourage comes up the stairs of Windy City Gym in Chicago, and there's Hector Camacho, and I'm in the ring shadow boxing, and they were talking to him, and I'm like, there's the champ. You know, I'm not gonna act like I'm not starstruck. I'm gonna keep working out. You know what I mean? So I'm working out, and he looks over at me and he goes, "Oh, that's the top guy, huh?" You know. And he said, "Oh man, look at them legs, them skinny legs. He can't fight. It's macho time." You know, he's talking about me, and everybody's laughing. It's like I got skinny legs, so I was laughing, and I laughed back with him and everything. And I never got a chance to really talk to him, even after he was talking crap about me and everything. I didn't get a chance to talk to him until after the fight. At the Rosemont Horizon, I put on a devastating show, fought a very tough guy, tougher guy than he had, and I won the fight on the knockout. He went the distance with somebody that was less, and so it was a lot of conversation going on. But after that, he comes up to me and he goes, "Hey man, I like you, man. Why don't you come up to my suite?" So he got a suite, top floor at Hyatt Regency, double suite hooked up. Go in there, and there's all kind of half-naked Hispanic women and white women and black women, and there's drugs everywhere. There's and I didn't understand. I was just happy to be there. Here I am with the champ of the world, and this is how we living. This is how we do it. Yep. So it was false for me. I was thinking, this is the life. This is how we do it. Yep. I'm trying cocaine and stuff, drugs cocaine for the first time. Just doing stuff that I would normally not do.
Sure. Yeah.
The same things that Soul Mommy was telling me was going to happen, I ran right into it. Like with blindfolds on, but I wasn't blindfolded. I supposed to knew better, and I did get involved with that life, and I ended up getting addicted to the lifestyle. Living like that, like flash and money and women and drugs, and it became something that I got immune to. I liked it. I thought that was it. I thought that was life. I thought I finally made it.
I very much remember one of the things that I had coming up when I was bodybuilding, but because of back then, you you're either bouncing in bars or you're a personal trainer or you're working security for some arena, and I did all three of those, right? But with that, then working as security for different arenas, there would be, back in the 80s when I was doing it, there was all these different bands that were coming through the different areas, and it was very much, there was an element to that. Now I was working, so it was working security for them, so it was different because I wasn't a guest, right? In your case, all of a sudden at that night you're part of it. You're almost like, in some ways, you had your own spotlight on you because of the fight that just had. Plus, you're on a high from that fight too, right? And
I'm
so
thinking, this is great.
Yeah, so I can see how intoxicating that would be.
Yes,
and then the whole lifestyle aspect of it, that there's this temptation, this allure of, so this is the payoff for all this hard work,
right? And that's exactly what I thought. I said, this is the payoff. This is what this is all about. This was being a champion is all about. Being one of the best fighters in the world is all about. I didn't understand nothing. I'm telling you, man, I'm glad you brought it up, because Soul Mommy did open the door. He told me this stuff would happen, and I had the blinders on. I really couldn't see what was happening. And so I got caught up in that lifestyle. My manager knew I was having some problems. He was a former alcoholic or whatever, and he knew I was going through something. So he thought he was doing the right thing by moving me to San Diego, California. I went there to spar with Terrible Terry Norris. At the time, he was an undisputed junior middleweight champion. I sparred with him. I went up there to spar with him on a trial basis. He fell in love with me. He told my manager, keep him here. And so I stayed there. His trainer became my trainer because my first trainer previously passed away. So I ended up going to California, and now here's the lights. I'm in California. I'm in Hollywood. I'm doing it now. This is it. The habits became serious. It became more. It didn't become just a habit. It became an addiction. And I began to get addicted to the lifestyle and everything that came with it. And I was training harder than ever and knocking out some of the top guys in the world. But after that, I became that party life. That I thought that was it. Like this, I finally made it. I'm in Hollywood now.
It's interesting, and your manager probably, again, he had a job to do. He cared about you, but at the same time, you fall into this idea that, okay, if I just relocate him, then that's what happened. We moved from Rockford, get him back to Chicago, he'll do fine. Did fine. Well, all right, he's having problems here. Let's just move on. And we talk about that in addiction work, is that relocation. But the problem with that is that you follow you. Right. Wherever you go, you happen to be there, right? And
it don't matter where I'm at. I was the problem.
Right.
It's like, okay, let's move him to California. Chicago wasn't a problem. Rockford wasn't a problem. Pat was the problem.
And the part of Pat being the problem was thinking that you could get away with it, right? That the lifestyle. I'll train during the day and party at night. Right. Or however that was, right? And so I think it's the thinking that gets us so distracted off of what we really want to be able to do.
I'm glad you said that, because Terry Norris's manager, I saw him some years later, and he was telling another kid young kid coming up. He said, "This guy right here, man, he was crazy. He could drink and party all night, man, and go in there and do 12 rounds with the champion." And I thought that's not cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I really thought about it. I said, wait, that ain't cool.
Right.
I don't want to be known for that.
Right.
But I'm glad you had said that, because he did say that to someone. That was later in life. After at this point. But
right. But it's those things that we sit back and reflect on.
Yeah.
And we don't hear it at the time because we can only hear so much.
Right.
It's kind of like driving down the road, and we have the signs on the side of the road, but car seems to be fine now. Road seems to be fine now.
Right.
And we can't really take it in yet. So out in California, the lifestyle is now amplified.
It's amplified, yes.
Right. And so what's happening now? What's happening with
Oh man, it was a beautiful time because I was winning. Some of the most gorgeous women live in California or go to California to hang out. So I was having like a ball, a man in his early 20s, and just really having a ball, not even thinking of the consequences of anything that's going on. I end up getting a title shot, a championship shot for the NABF, North American Boxing Federation Championship against Daryl Coley. I was amped up for a fight, very pumped up, but I was addicted to drugs, and I was still using, and I used day prior to the fight. I went inside the fight, and the guy was number 2 in the world, one of the best, fast hands, putting hands on me for most of the fight. It's on YouTube. He was with me for most of the fight. 9th round, I caught him with a great shot, dropped him. He got up, the bell rung. He never could recover. The 10th, I was all over him. They stopped the fight. I become the NABF champion. Now I'm number 2 in the world. Guaranteed title shot against Ike Corte, $400,000 flat. Win or lose, I'm going to get it. $400,000. Here it is. I made it. They go to the locker room. Congratulations, Pat. Peeing this cup. I know it's over. Pee the cup. My manager, on my way back to San Diego, California, my trainer told me, "Okay, Pat, don't come to the gym for a couple days and enjoy yourself, and we'll see you. We'll get ready after that." I got a phone call. "Pat, you failed a drug test. You stripped of your title. You suspended a whole year, and the title shot is off." Manager stopped paying me. He said, "Okay, we're gonna take, since you suspended, I'm not gonna." And I found myself on the street in San Diego, and then with an addiction. This time, I don't have the money. This time, I just have an addiction. And then it hit. I'm out there, and I started doing robberies, not robberies, but strong arm robberies, same thing. Snatching purses, knocking dudes out, taking their wallet and running. I became a full-fledged addict out there in San Diego, California, and I got locked up for the first time ever in prison, not jail. First time ever going to prison. I went in California, and there I had another wake-up call.
Okay.
It was Dr. Martin Luther King's birthday, and I ended up getting into a scuffle with some guy because I don't eat sweets. I don't eat cakes, candy. So I just give my sweets to this guy, and he'd give me his, the meat portion of the meal. And I guess somebody got mad because they wanted the sweets or the meat or whatever. And he said, "Oh, we got a love connection in here or something." So that was like a no-no. And so me and the guy, he put us in a cell together and let us fight it out. So we fought it out. Of course, I did what I had to do. We come back out and boxing's on TV. Happened to be the same guy that I knocked out for the title. He was fighting somebody else for my vacant title. And so they showed pictures of me knocking him out. And, of course, the inmates saw it. And it was an older guy. And he called me over to himself. He said, "Come here, man. Come here." And I went over to him. He goes, "It's Martin Luther King's birthday. And you in there fighting this black guy for no reason. And here you are on TV. You ought to be ashamed of yourself." And it really hit me. I remember going to the cell even before the fight was over. I left and went to my cell, and I looked at myself in the mirror, and I was like, "Oh man, what am I doing? What am I even doing here?" So here comes the wake up call. And that's when I looked at myself and I said, "Whoa, something's got to change. It's got to be me. I got to change. I got to change now."
Right. So at that time period, so you're in state penitentiary, California State Penitentiary, and how much time do you, if you remember, how much time did you have left approximately to serve in that sentence?
I think I had like 9 more months to go. I was there probably 9 months already.
Okay.
I had 9 more months to go, and that I'll never forget it, man. Because I remember after looking at myself in the mirror, I remember looking at myself and said, "What am I doing?" You know, and I started working out. Okay, and I was very surprised that other inmates were with me. You know, like this guy said, "Okay, man, I'll run a mile with you, man. Then do such and such got to come in and do another mile with you know." And so they started working out with me and doing weights with me, and I was just so excited because I knew when I get out of here, I'm going to work. You know, that's how I felt. You know,
sure.
But it was a wake up call. I needed that. But it wasn't the end though. But it was a good wake up call.
But then that was probably the first time in a while that you had approximately 18 months, no drugs.
No drugs at all.
Right. So the first,
there were drugs available there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I wasn't. I had no interest in drugs.
Okay. So you have 18 months, no drugs.
Yes.
And then halfway through-ish, approximately, is when Martin Luther King's birthday is.
Yeah.
And you have this enlightenment, this wake up, right?
A wake up.
And then you start preparing for leaving.
Yes.
Okay. And so physically, you're starting to prepare for leaving. What's going on mentally and emotionally?
Oh, this is what got me mentally. I started doing something I didn't have to do. I could just do my time and get out of there. But I started taking classes. Okay. Just for me. I knew I had to do some things to make me think differently. And that's basically what the classes they had were like called options, where you can go in. It's trying to give you different options instead of doing things how we usually do it, or how we usually do things. Thinking of doing things differently, and what the options does, it helps you. It gives you a moment when you're going through something, or you might even have going through a drug thing, and you might feel like, I feel like I gotta go binge. It give you a different option to think about, like I could do something else instead of this, or taking a moment to think about something else might get you past that feeling moment. I took a couple classes while we were in there, starting to get myself together mentally as well as physically. Okay,
gotcha. So then you get out, and tell us a little bit about what happens then.
I get out. Great things started happening as far as fights. I started getting some. I got back in the top 10. I had a couple of knockouts in a row. They moved me in a higher weight class from welterweight, being number 2 in the world as a welterweight, and they end up. Even like today, 1996, look my welterweight division up. I'll be rated number 9th in the world. Still there. The Ring Magazine, still there. But next year, at 154, when I came back at 154, a weight class heavier. And that got me all the way to number 7th in the world as a junior middleweight. The couple fights that I had then. Okay. And man, I was on a roll. I was on a roll. I didn't think nothing was going to stop me. You know what I mean? I knew that I've been through the roughest part. But it wasn't over.
Okay.
It wasn't over.
Okay. So then that temptation came back. The lifestyle temptation.
Yes, sir. It came back.
Yeah. So then, even though you're ranked 7th in the world and you're getting some opportunities to fight again, the lifestyle comes back. Yeah,
it comes back. And this is what happens. I got a new trainer. Okay, he was Ken Norton's manager. Ken Norton out of San Diego. I had a big fight against a guy that just got put out of the top 10. He just got pushed out. He just lost and got pushed out of the top 10. I won a fight that got me into the top 10.
Okay.
So I'm 7th in the world. This guy is like 11th or 12th. He was in the top 10. My trainer had a bright idea. Let's fight him and prove that we belong here. But we didn't have to prove nothing. We were already there. Once you're 7th in the world, you're going to get a title shot. You probably get a title shot before the number 2 and number 3 and number 1 guy, because they'd rather fight somebody in the latter part of the top 10. So I was already in line for a title shot, but we made a mistake and took that fight. It was a war. I got knocked down twice. He got knocked down twice. Blood everywhere. We're trying to kill each other. And I ended up losing a split decision. After that, my manager died. 911 just happened, and I came back home. I couldn't take it. I came back home. And I found myself depressed, very, very depressed, and vulnerable to drugs. And I started back doing drugs again.
Okay.
And this time it got worse. It was worse this time. And I ended up in the Illinois State Prison this time. And wow, that was a rough one. That was a rough one. Thank God it happened, because this time something happened when I was in prison.
Okay.
I had a dream. At least I thought it was a dream. It was actually some things that really happened in my life. I was walking in California down an alley trying to score some drugs, and somebody started shooting at me. And I know it was at me because when I ducked behind the garbage dumpster, the bullets were hitting the dumpster. And I knew I was going to get killed. I knew it. Somebody was trying to take me out. I woke up from the dream, even though that was a reality part of my life, and a voice said, I was the one to stop, I was the force field to stop the bullets from hitting you. It was a voice, and I can never forget that voice, never. And then I instantly went back to another time in my life when I was rolling a blunt with marijuana, and I put crack cocaine on it, and I sprinkled some crystal meth on it, and I rolled it up and I dipped it in embalming fluid. And I hit it, and my heart was, and I thought I was gonna die. And immediately the dream stopped again, and a voice said, I was the one that stopped you from ODing. And I lost it. I fell off the bunk. I was on the floor, and I just started yelling, what can I do to thank you for saving my life? That's what can I do? And I looked down, and there was a puddle of tears down there. And the voice said, learn of me. Tell everyone I've done for me and before you, and tell them I can do the same thing for them. After that moment, I talked to the counselor at the prison, and I said, I want to get in that Bible study class you guys got where you can get into the college. And she said, well, the list is so long, it might take you about 2-3 months to get in. I said, okay. 2-3 days later, she came to me and told me, well, we got you in. And I started studying the Word of God. I went to college, International College of Bible Theology. And after I got out, I continued school. I got into ministry with my mother's home church. The pastor took me under his wing and brought me up, ordained me in 4 years. After 4 years, I got ordained as a pastor in ministry. And I started, I opened up a gym, called it Pat Cat Boxing. And I had a couple of gyms, but financially I couldn't just keep them all going, because I charge a lot cheaper than everybody, because I really care more about the person than I do the money. And so I just started, I had a couple of gyms, and now I got a program. My boxing program is in different, I use different gyms from different places. Okay. That's what I'm doing now.
Gotcha. So you may have already mentioned it, but I just want to really kind of solidify it. So you've had, throughout your life, there's been a couple different time periods where you've had calls or wake-up calls or moments, right? After the one fighting that one champion, he sat with you for an hour and gave you some heads up about what you were going to see and what not to do, and then that gentleman when you were in the state penitentiary in California, talking about what are you doing, right? But this road to Damascus experience, right? This wake up was different, and so what was different, not just with the experience, but what was different afterwards? What did Pat do afterwards that was different this time? Because you were still in the penitentiary at the time. You started taking classes. Started taking. What was different once you got released this time?
I surrendered. I surrendered. I always had a plan for everything I was doing. I always had a plan, but this time I gave up. I said, okay, this is not about me anymore. It was like, you know how people say, I need this from God, or I need this and I need that. My thing was, God, what can I do for you now? You've done so much. You've done so much for me. You brought me through the storm. What can I do for you now? I'm not asking you for anything no more. That was the big difference. That's when I said, you know what? I'm tired of taking and using. Now, God, what can I do? Put me to work. That was the big difference out of all of it. I surrendered totally and said, okay, not belong to you.
Yeah. Okay.
I think that's what did it.
Because I think that, right, is going to be a much better defense against the temptation of the lifestyle, the temptation of the flash, of the quick get in the lights fast. Yeah. Because there's always that temptation. Yeah, it's just there's different ways, right? There's different ways of it, but when we surrender, we can then see.
Yeah, you can see clear.
You can see what's false.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. It's like, oh my God, that's perfect, because you can see clearer now. You can see what it is and what it's for. Who mean you any good and who don't. Who cares about you? Don't. Now after and I thank God for that. After this, no more drug addiction, nothing like that. But I began to deal with a different demon, I should say. Okay. I started dealing with depression. Okay. I started dealing with looking over my life and thinking of all the money I've messed up, and then coming back and seeing my mother struggling, and thinking, wow, Mom, I could have helped you out. You know, I remember I was crying to her, and I was like, Mom, I could have helped you. I could have paid this house off a long time ago. You know what I mean? Really easy work, you know? And I felt so bad because of the things and that's what depression does. It'll bring you back just to get you trapped. And she said something. She said, you know what? She said, baby, the proudest day of my life when I seen you go up there and get ordained. She said that covered everything. And then that it made me feel better. But depression doesn't work like that. Depression keeps attacking you in your sleep. And then I started feeling bad for things like the past, or how come I'm not here now? How come I didn't do this? And depression's always messed with me, and actually it still does. You know what I mean? But it doesn't get me to the point where I want to go do drugs, because I believe that I'm delivered from that. Okay. Right now, that's just my fight inside. It doesn't. You know, medication is not, to me, is not the answer. I'm not saying don't take medication, because you have to take medication. But I was taking depressed pills, and it wasn't doing nothing but making me a zombie. You know what I mean? And it just wasn't working for me per se. Right. So what I did was I gave it to God again, and I said, God, you got me over drug addiction. You can help me get over depression, and I believe it. And I'm still gonna always struggle with. I'm not struggle with them, but they're always gonna be there. Addiction, it will wake itself up. It's like a sleeping tiger. It's gonna wake itself up. It's gonna bother you. But once you get past it, you know, a little initial little attack, you're good. Yeah. You know, the depression is something I'm still battling with, and I've been like, you get your answers from different. You never know where you're gonna get your answers from. Yeah. And I was Alex Gary is a friend of mine, and he has a daughter named Hannah that's been dealing with these things all her life. And I was boxing training her, and we was going for a run one day, and she didn't know how depressed I really was or what I was going through at that time. But she just started talking while we're jogging. Right? I'm riding the bike and she's jogging. And she's just talking. And she was telling me or explaining to me how she handles depression and the different options that she uses. And I was like, I'm sitting there crying like, this girl don't even know. She's saving me right now. And I thank God for that, because he's putting people in my life, and you never know who they are.
Yeah.
But God will put people in your life to help you get through whatever you're going through. And they don't even necessarily have to know what you're going through.
Yeah.
We just have to have a listening ear.
Yeah, just being open.
And we have to hear with our heart. You remember when Jesus said, he said, those who have an ear, let them hear.
Yeah.
Then you got ear, E-A-R. You got hear, H-E-A-R.
Yeah.
Then you got to hear with your heart, H-E-A-R-T.
Yeah.
And since I've been doing that, it's been helping me every day, bro.
Yeah. I think, just as I'm listening to you, thinking about the idea of, before the temptation, what was about, that same thing that drove you to want to train hard, to want to make it. That same thing also, wanted that other side, wanted that lifestyle, wanted that, and when you said earlier about being addicted to lifestyle, I remember for me that was my deal. Yeah. It wasn't the steroids. It was
just the life.
It was the lifestyle that I was afraid of giving up, because who would I be if I gave it up?
Right.
Who would I be if I didn't compete? What would that be like? Right. And so a similar type of experience. But then there's the other element. So that one's contained, right? It's contained over here. But the dark side has another way of coming back and say, "Oh, okay. Well, so you got a defense for that one. Well, how about all the shit you've lost because of being stupid?
Keep on attacking me."
So then it's going to be about regret. It's going to be about missed opportunities. It's going to be about hurting people, right? And so in the 12 steps, they talk about doing that, 4-step, that fearless and moral inventory.
Inventory of yourself, yeah.
And I think what's beautiful about that element, right? So you do the 4th step, and then there's a 5th step where once you do that, you say it to another person, so you actually know you did it, right? And then it's done. The slate's wiped clean, right? And if we believe that something greater than ourselves, God, has released us from that.
Yes.
So then when we're tempted to go back down there,
you have to remind yourself, I'm released from this.
Yeah. It sounds like it's too simple,
but it works.
But it works.
It works.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'd have been doing drugs a long time ago.
Yeah.
I've given it up.
Yeah. So I think you're 100% right. Just you never know, right? You're training someone and she ends up helping you with something completely different.
I'm sitting there riding a bike in tears, and she don't even know it.
Yeah.
She don't even know what I'm trying about. She don't even know that she just helped me find an answer to some things. And that's how God works, man.
Exactly. Yeah. There's a whole lot more of everyone being connected that way than not. So Patrick, right now, you obviously you're a minister.
Yes, sir.
But your ministry is also in the gyms.
That's where it's at. I mean, I am an associate pastor in a church. When we go out and do things, I preach every now and then, maybe 3 or 4 times a year. But my ministry is really what I'm in my job, just working with helping people. Yeah. And I just want to see people. I'm helping them lose weight, helping them get their hands right, self-confidence and stuff like that. But I get a chance to sprinkle a little nugget of love, the love of God. I get a chance to do it all. Yeah. And that's just a blessing, man. And then there's a lot of fighters that's going through it, and I can be that. I'm like the old guy saying, "Hey, man, these things are going to happen. Yep. They're going to come your way. Yep. But you know what? There is an answer. Yep. And I'm the guy I'm like a soul mommy now. I'm the one to get a chance to minister to other ones. But my life and my life example, things that I've been through in life is really what helps me, because they understand it. They knew I was there, and I let them know, hey, I know what it takes to get it, and I know what it takes to mess it up. And I get a chance to share that with them.
And I think that part of it, similar to what your mom said about the part that she was proudest about, right? It wasn't about being on TV. It wasn't about it was about what you did after you fell. Yeah. Right.
It's about getting up, huh?
Yeah, it's about getting up, right? And it's about continuing on that journey and then giving back because it was given to you.
Right. right.
You know,
I can't keep it for myself, man.
Yeah, I was just listening to my pastor yesterday talk about the idea of that new commandment, right? About loving others. You know, love others as I've loved you, and so that idea of, because it was done for you, you were released from those things, you were protected. Now I'm hearing that you're giving back.
I got to. It's all about.
All right.
I mean, I think that's the comeback story for anybody. Is not about the falling down.
Yeah.
It's about the getting up.
Yeah.
And the Bible says a wise man gets up 7 times. And what they mean by that, they mean in complete time. That he always gets up. That's what they mean, because number 7 is completion. So get up every time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's it, man. Getting up.
Yeah. So, Pat, thank you very much for being here today. Your story is not only a great story, because you have a lot of stories of all the people you met and different things, but more importantly, the power of your story is what you've done with it now.
Yes,
so,
sir.
If there's anything that you would want to part with today and share with anybody listening, what would you want to leave with?
Never give up.
Okay.
Never give up. Nothing is too hard for God. Never give up. If I can do it, you can do it. He's no respecter of persons. He can do it for anybody.
All right. Patrick, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you very much for joining us today as Patrick shares his story and his drive to be one of the top in the world in his particular profession of boxing, but how those distractions got in the way of that. But how at different time periods in his life he had people planting seeds with him, and that God was there all along, and then that became part of the story, which he then failed forward, and now he's given back. Thank you very much for being with us today, and look forward to being with you next week.